Beloved soul, pause and listen with your heart open wide. I witness the sacred space where you now stand, and I understand the burdens you have carried in the sacred silence of your journey. A profound transformation has just occurred, and it is essential that you comprehend the deeper truth behind what others believed was your conclusion, and what this pivotal moment truly signifies for your divine positioning. Those who quietly withdrew their presence from your life now carry an unexpected weight of melancholy within their hearts. What they were absolutely certain represented your final chapter has revealed itself to be the precise moment when their own season of regret commenced. Indeed, they find themselves deeply troubled now, not because of your physical absence from their world, but because you are flourishing in ways that transcend their limited capacity to understand or imagine. Their tears do not flow from missing your companionship, precious one, but from witnessing the radiant life you now possess, a life that exists far beyond the boundaries of their restricted comprehension and narrow vision. The shift they never saw coming. You sensed a monumental change approaching on the horizon of your destiny. While they chose to occupy themselves with temporary distractions and fleeting pleasures, you were deliberately moving toward a season that would expose the emptiness behind their false facades and guide them into a previously hidden realm of profound sadness and regret. That prophetic time has now fully arrived. A deep foundational shift has taken place, not primarily affecting your trajectory, my cherished child, but fundamentally unsettling their understanding of reality and their place within it. This revelation strikes like a sharp, uncomfortable realization that pierces through all the carefully constructed masks they wore to hide their true nature. They weep in private, in those unavoidable hidden spaces, behind closed doors, within the isolated world they created for themselves by deliberately excluding your presence. They actively worked to diminish your significance and minimize your impact. They didn't simply walk away from you, they departed with visible disdain and contempt. They acted with deliberate negativity toward your person and your character, all while secretly extracting from your inner essence like thieves who operate under the cover of darkness. They perceived your genuine spirit as a fundamental weakness, and your willingness to remain open and vulnerable as something they could easily exploit for their own advantage. When they finally withdrew from your life, they departed not with humility or regret, but with inflated pride, absolutely certain they had achieved a decisive victory over you. The weight of misplaced pride. Now that same pride they wore like a crown feels unbearably heavy, my precious child, because something profoundly important has manifested in your life. This transformation occurred not because of anything you said in defense or explanation, but entirely because of the extraordinary person you have evolved into through this process. You have ascended to a level of existence they cannot access or comprehend. You have risen to greater heights, demonstrating qualities and characteristics they adamantly insisted you did not possess. The very essence they once dismissed with casual indifference now remains with them as a persistent, haunting memory that refuses to fade. Your presence continues to be felt in spaces where you are not physically present. Your essence creates echoes in places they believed belonged exclusively to them. They watch in stunned silence now, observing how circumstances and events continue to unfold in ways that validate your character and choices. What disturbs them most profoundly is the act of remembering, recalling what they said about you, what they did to you, and the truths they stubbornly refuse to acknowledge. This memory troubles them to the very core of their being. They weep now, my beloved child, not because they experience any longing for your companionship, but from the devastating understanding of how wrongly and unjustly they treated you. They didn't merely lose a connection or relationship. They forfeited their own inner peace, their own potential for personal development, and their own pathway forward into greater fulfillment. You were their pathway to everything they desired. You were never just a passing presence in their lives, a temporary figure they could easily forget. You were the living pathway to the very things they claimed to desire most desperately. Now they witness those blessings and opportunities manifesting in reality, and they find themselves completely excluded from participation. They weep in the secrecy of their private moments, because their sense of self-importance and inflated ego prevents them from openly admitting they were fundamentally wrong about you. Their pride creates an impenetrable barrier that keeps them from acknowledging they released something infinitely valuable from their lives. They now understand, my precious child, that you didn't simply improve or get better, you transformed into someone they no longer recognize, someone they cannot access or reach. Peace and tranquility were things they desperately sought and claimed to value. Now they are constantly reminded that you carried that very peace within your being all along. They longed for genuine loyalty and faithfulness, and now they clearly see that quality was embodied in your character. They wanted success, advancement, and perfect balance in their lives, but they severed the very relationship that would have guided them to those destinations. The divine timing of truth. The way events unfold in the spiritual realm ensures that fundamental truths become crystal clear when the divinely appointed moment arrives. This timing guarantees they will hear and feel the profound silence that resulted from their own actions and choices. Every positive development in your life now, my precious child, every fresh opportunity that presents itself, every bright and joyful moment you encounter, serves as plain, undeniable evidence of the truth they desperately tried to conceal and deny. You were never the source of difficulty or problems in their lives. You were always the pathway forward, the solution they couldn't recognize. Their regret is no longer some distant theoretical concept, but something they feel deeply and intimately within the core of their being. This isn't the kind of regret that can be easily expressed in words. It's the type that disrupts their sleep, that compels them to revisit your journey with forced composure, that causes them to examine past interactions and conversations, searching desperately for any hint of weakness or fault in your character. This regret keeps them silent, because speaking the truth openly would require them to admit you were right all along, and their pride cannot bear such an acknowledgement. They will deny you everything and suppose everyone possessed souls. In their pride, they cannot bear such an acknowledgement. The light they rejected. They failed to properly value the light that emanated from your being. Now they perceive it as something beautiful and powerful that remains forever beyond their reach. Without your presence in their lives, they have become less than they were before your departure. They believed they were discarding something worthless and insignificant. Now they find themselves completely unable to move forward, held captive in a place of stagnation and regret. This situation isn't about some grand cosmic consequence or divine retribution. It's simply the natural result and inevitable outcome of the choices they made and the actions they took. This isn't about you seeking revenge or attempting to get even with them for their treatment. It's about understanding and awareness finally arriving for them after a long period of willful blindness. This transformation isn't about you showing yourself differently or putting on a performance for their benefit. It's about them finally seeing and recognizing who you truly were all along. Beneath the surface they chose to ignore. The pause that prepared you. Allow them to experience their tears and their sadness, my cherished child. Let their sorrow serve as living proof of the truths you embodied, even when they considered you unimportant and insignificant. Let them remain in the stillness and isolation they claim to desire so desperately. A profound change has taken place, not only for you, but for them as well. Now they understand with crystal clarity that your strength and resilience weren't born from needing something external for validation. Your periods of stillness and quiet weren't signs of defeat. They were because you were being carefully prepared for something greater. You are now the undeniable reality they cannot overlook, ignore, or dismiss. Your name is spoken with recognition and respect in wide circles. Your light cannot be dimmed or extinguished, and their sadness cannot be halted or reversed. They believed your journey had reached its final destination, but you were merely paused in preparation. I orchestrated that pause myself, my beloved child, not for their benefit or to teach them a lesson, but to make you completely ready for what was to come. They genuinely believed your path had concluded permanently. To be completely transparent, they felt a sense of satisfaction and pleasure in what they perceived as your failure and defeat. This satisfaction existed perhaps in silence, or even openly, when you were not present to witness their reactions. They observed your periods of quiet reflection and withdrawal, and interpreted these as signs that you had given up entirely. The misunderstanding of stillness. They misunderstood your pause as a final stopping point, your stillness as evidence of feeling completely beaten and defeated. But they failed to grasp the fundamental truth that your delay was never intended as a conclusion or ending. It was an integral part of my divine design and perfect timing. That very delay they interpreted as defeat has now become what they fear most intensely, my precious child, because you did not remain hidden or concealed forever. You emerged into the light stronger than before. They discovered happiness and satisfaction in your absence and made quiet, hurtful comments about your situation behind closed doors. Yet you maintained your composure and inner strength. You allowed them to enjoy their brief season of perceived victory. But remaining quiet and withdrawn does not mean surrendering or giving up the fight. True strength often develops and builds without drawing attention or making noise. That is exactly what was happening during your time of apparent stillness. You were being made strong in unseen ways, growing and developing in the quietness, kept secure and protected by something infinitely greater than their words or opinions could touch. The revelation of truth. Now they weep, my beloved child, not because you are no longer physically present with them, but because the life you now live serves as plain, undeniable evidence that they never possessed the authority to declare your story finished or over. Understand this fundamental truth, my precious child. They interpreted your pause as definitive proof that you had failed completely, but I placed that pause upon you like holding back a crucial element until the precise moment it would be needed for a major turning point in your destiny. You were specifically intended and designed for this particular time in history. You were not being held back or delayed unnecessarily. You were being positioned with perfect accuracy and divine precision. They could not perceive or understand this deeper reality, my precious child, because their limited perspective and narrow vision could not comprehend the greater purpose and divine plan at work. There were difficult moments during this process, weren't there, my beloved? Times when you felt the sharp sting of uncertainty and doubt creeping into your heart and mind. You wondered if perhaps they were correct in their assessment of you. You questioned whether you truly were the person I created you to be, or if you had stumbled beyond any possibility of recovery. That was precisely their intention and desired outcome. They hoped to plant seeds of doubt so deep within your consciousness that they would choke and destroy the very path I had laid out for your life. The unshakable foundation? But you must understand and embrace this unshakable truth. You cannot abandon or walk away from the purpose that has been woven into the very fabric of your being. You may experience periods of pause and reflection. You may feel deep sorrow and walk through seasons of pain and difficulty. but you will never be completely shattered or destroyed. When you emerge from those challenging times, you carry within yourself a quiet strength they could never have imagined or anticipated. You are not being held back or delayed, my precious child. You are not falling behind some predetermined schedule. You are complete and whole. You are being carefully prepared for a time when your presence and influence could no longer be ignored, dismissed, or minimized. Those who position themselves against you now experience a different kind of pain and discomfort. They weep because they realize their premature celebrations were based on false assumptions. They declared an ending that simply never arrived or materialized. They missed the deeper, more profound truth that was unfolding beneath the surface. What appeared quiet and still on the outside was actually taking firm root and establishing an unshakable foundation. My beloved child, you have become the person you were always meant to be. And the untrue, harmful things spoken about you are now reflecting back upon those who spoke them with such confidence. The fear behind their actions. Some among them even secretly wished for your difficulties and struggles to continue indefinitely. Let's address this reality plainly and honestly, my beloved. The truth behind their behavior was actually much simpler than it appeared. They were operating from a place of deep fear. They sensed the calm power that resided within you, even during your times of stillness and apparent inactivity. You didn't need to strive or force anything to happen. Your very existence was sufficient and complete, and that reality made them deeply uncomfortable then. Now it brings them profound sorrow and regret. They grieve in moments when no one else can see or witness their pain. They weep when they find themselves alone with their thoughts and memories. Remembering their words and actions brings them an overwhelming feeling of shame and remorse. They remember how they treated you with disrespect and contempt. They remember setting you aside as if you were insignificant. Now they witness your life unfolding in ways they insisted would never happen or be possible. Here is what I need you to grasp and fully comprehend, my cherished child. They did not dim your light or extinguish your flame. I arranged this precise timing for its greatest and most powerful impact. Your journey is not behind schedule or delayed in any way. It reveals itself precisely when it is divinely right for you and when it serves to reveal certain truths to them as well. Divine timing and purpose. This is not random chance or coincidence. This is purpose manifesting itself as part of a larger, divine plan that is solid and true. You were becoming strong and resilient while they celebrated what they perceived as your silence and defeat. You were being made firm and unshakable while they believed you were broken beyond repair. Now, my beloved one, you are not merely whole and restored. You carry within yourself a quiet power that is both profound and transformative. This power doesn't come from fighting battles as they do, but because you embody truth in its purest form. Truth doesn't beg for attention or recognition. It simply arrives and transforms everything around it through its mere presence. Allow them to experience their tears and their sadness. Let them go through the quiet discomfort they hoped would completely undo and destroy you. Let them witness your presence and your flourishing, even though it is difficult and painful for them to bear. The person you are now wasn't formed in a single day or through one transformative experience. Your character took shape in moments that remained unseen, in quiet times, through periods of uncertainty and doubt. You became something authentic and genuine that they could never copy or replicate. They believed your journey was completely finished and over. They marked you as someone who could be easily forgotten, someone whose absence wouldn't matter or make any difference in the grand scheme of things. The emergence of your true self. But they failed to remember something crucial, my precious child. Some souls do not simply fade away into obscurity. They emerge again with clearer vision, deeper strength, and completely unshakable resolve. The pause they welcomed and celebrated became the very space where you grew into your full, unstoppable self. Now their conversations about you return, but they carry no certainty or confidence, only regret for their past choices and decisions. They watch your path with intense interest and careful attention. They search for your unique spirit and qualities in others who simply cannot hold or embody what you possess naturally. They grieve not just for your current success and flourishing, but for the dawning understanding that this outcome was always meant to be part of your destiny. The very paths they closed off to you, you now bypass entirely, heading toward destinations and achievements they will never reach or experience. You didn't simply return to your previous state. You returned beyond their reach and influence. You didn't just recover from your difficulties. You surpassed all their expectations and limitations. They believed you were completely finished and done. Now they weep, realizing you were merely beginning your true journey. The power of your name. Your name is now spoken with genuine significance and respect in the very places where it was once dismissed with contempt. They removed you from their circle and community, but now your progress and achievements have become the center of their conversations and discussions. That same name they tried to diminish is now difficult for them to bear because it will not be quieted or silenced. Your presence is felt more strongly than ever before, my precious child, and you haven't needed to assert it or demand recognition. This is what troubles them most deeply. You didn't engage in conflict or confrontation. You didn't respond to their negativity with more negativity. You didn't argue your way into being valued or respected. You earned genuine respect by enduring what they claimed would break you completely. You moved through their scorn and contempt, remaining untouched and unafraid. Now, every place where you were once made to feel small and insignificant resonates with your name. Not in scorn or mockery, but in respect and admiration. Not as a warning to others, but as an inspiring example of resilience and strength. They struggle to accept this new reality, yet they know it is completely real and undeniable. Their pride prevents them from admitting it openly and honestly, but they watch you closely, observing quietly, learning from the very spirit they once tried to extinguish and destroy. The standard you've become. Those who once dismissed your name with a casual glance now speak it softly and carefully, my beloved child, as if it holds a power that reminds them of what they allowed to slip away from their lives. It causes them genuine pain to realize that you exceeded every limitation they attempted to set for you. Your very being now transforms the environment they sought to dominate and control. You were the one they excluded, kept at a distance, spoke of negatively, and attempted to leave behind permanently. But the natural flow of life ensures that certain individuals are necessary and essential for certain moments in time. You were the one they removed from consideration and dismissed entirely. Now you have become the standard by which others are measured and evaluated. They attempted to overlook your significance and value, and now it has become impossible to avoid or ignore. You became the example they must acknowledge, the standard they outwardly ignore, while inwardly measuring themselves against it constantly. Let me be completely clear, my cherished one. They didn't merely dismiss you casually. They found genuine satisfaction and pleasure in doing so. They felt a sense of control and power when they excluded you from their circle. They felt important and superior when they spoke lightly of your difficulties and struggles. They found pleasure in hearing your name when it was associated with hardship, hurt, or loneliness. The discomfort of truth. But now that same name causes them unease and discomfort. Your light disrupts their familiar comfort zones. Your accomplishments disturb their trivial conversations and shallow pursuits. Your name brings a quietness to their gatherings. not a peaceful quiet, but one that loudly declares their mistake and poor judgment. The remarkable thing is that you never had to force your way into their regard or respect. You didn't seek their approval or validation. You weren't even trying to gain their admiration or recognition. What I have accomplished in you, my beloved child, this is what truly reaches them and touches their hearts. You weren't reaching for their approval or seeking their acknowledgement. You were simply settling into the space I prepared specifically for you. You weren't trying to put on a performance or create a spectacle, but now your very existence serves as undeniable proof of my faithfulness and power. You didn't have to make others smaller to elevate yourself. You simply grew strong enough that they couldn't miss or ignore your presence. Your name is now on the lips of those who swore they would never speak it again. You have become the standard they measured themselves against, the reason for their uncertainty, the mirror reflecting their sadness and regret. Living proof of divine favor. You are the living proof they wish didn't exist, because your success and flourishing shows they bet against someone I hold dear and precious. This is not simply about settling scores or getting revenge. This is the revealing of my divine purpose and plan. This is what happens when those I love are allowed to thrive, when the time is perfectly right, my cherished one. This isn't about fame or public applause, but about revealing the true nature of those who laughed and celebrated when they pushed you away. You were the name they tried to silence, and now it echoes with greater strength and power than ever before. You are more than just something they discuss or talk about. You are permanently fixed in their minds and consciousness, not with sadness, but with a certain regard and respect. They failed to recognize they were actually setting the stage for how you would be remembered in history. All they can do now is watch from a distance, because who you have become carries a unique weight and significance, my precious child. Those who are not in harmony with your energy and purpose feel the distance keenly. You are not just physically present in spaces anymore, my beloved child. Your very being carries a certain significance that cannot be ignored. You have become the gentle force others notice and pay attention to, the topic that naturally comes up in conversations, the clear example of what it means to grow and develop authentically. The influence you carry. They compare themselves to you constantly, even when they pretend not to notice, even when they refuse to admit it openly. They learn lessons from observing your character and choices. They watch carefully when you choose to take action, noting the calm power you display when you remain still and quiet. They observe the graceful way you recover and rebuild after experiencing hardship. Every time your name is mentioned in any context, it brings back vivid memories of what they tried to push away and failed to destroy. Do not mistake their current quietness for peace or contentment. That stillness holds a deep weight of sorrow and regret. Each time they hesitate when your name comes up in conversation represents a moment when they recall how they acted toward you. Every uneasy movement, every sudden change in conversation topic, every strained smile that lacks genuine ease, my beloved child. These are manifestations of their unease. This is the sadness they cannot voice or express openly. This is their growing understanding that the one they turned away from was the one whose presence was truly essential for their well-being. So let them speak in low tones, let them whisper among themselves, let them remain uncomfortable with the sound of your name, which now carries more power and influence than any praise they could give. You no longer need their validation or approval. Who you have become is strong enough to stand alone. What you have accomplished serves as clear evidence of your worth and value. The peace you carried, the steady, confident way you walk through life is the final word on their judgment. You were the one they wrote off as insignificant. Now you are the one who stands apart, the one held in high regard, the one at the center of important conversations and decisions. They could not keep you away from your destined place because you were the very element that kept that place stable and secure. Allow this truth to settle deeply into your consciousness. When they sent you away, they also sent away the peace that came with your presence. They didn't simply lose you as a person. They lost the stillness and tranquility that only arrived because of your influence. They believed they were helping themselves when they moved you aside, telling themselves they were getting rid of trouble, removing distractions, protecting their own peace and quiet. But understand this fundamental truth. You were the steady source of quiet in their lives. You were the reason disorder and chaos did not take over much sooner. You were the stabilizing presence they never recognized the worth of, the clear way of seeing things they never properly valued, the gift they never knew they possessed until it departed with you. Now their world feels more noisy and chaotic than it ever did before. Confusion echoes through their daily experiences. Things that used to work smoothly now fall apart without any clear cause, and they find themselves wondering why nothing feels right or secure anymore. The stabilizing force they lost. The answer is simple. You were their safe place and secure foundation. Your presence brought stability to the atmosphere around you, even when you weren't aware of your influence. The good heart you possessed softened troubles they didn't even see approaching. The gentle spirit you demonstrated created a protective barrier they ignored until the moment it was no longer there to shield them. Let me be completely clear about their motivations. They didn't turn you away to keep themselves safe or secure. They turned you away to feed their own sense of importance and superiority. But in reality, you were working to prevent things from falling apart around them, trying to maintain stability and harmony. Now, the foundation they built their lives upon is weakening gradually. They cannot fix or repair it because you were the essential component that kept everything stable and functional. It's like removing the very thing that kept a complex machine working properly because you didn't like the sound it made, only to discover later that nothing operates as it should without that crucial element. The timing feels wrong now. The natural flow is disrupted, and the one they tried to quiet was actually the one who brought everything into proper order and harmony. They shed tears when no one can see them, not just because they long for your presence, but because they miss the way their lives felt when you were near. The clear sight, the sense of purpose, the calm strength, the stable effect that kept their lives in perfect balance. The irreplaceable nature of your gift. They perceive a profound lack now in their daily experience. Regardless of who they draw close to or what they pursue to fill the void, nothing brings lasting calm or satisfaction because what was within you was completely unique and one of a kind. I placed that special quality there myself, crafted it specifically for you. Do not feel sadness about your departure or wonder if you should have stayed longer, worked harder, or said more to convince them. The reality is you were never intended to fix their inner brokenness or heal their fundamental issues. You were meant to shine with my light, not ask for permission to glow and illuminate the darkness around you. Slabo Wisdom, summarizing the 8 Imams, the Iliad. I did not guide you away from them to bring them hardship or punishment. I led you away to protect you from harm and to position you for greater things. I saw the changes coming before they did. I recognized the faults and weaknesses in their way of living, and I guided you away so you could truly thrive and flourish. Allow them to face their confusion and the consequences of their choices. Let them experience the hardship and difficulty because the peace they once knew existed in their lives because of your presence, and they deliberately pushed it away. The truth they cannot escape. They took your influence lightly and didn't value what you brought to their lives. Now the way you live serves as a powerful teacher, showing them a truth they cannot look away from or ignore. They tried to make you seem insignificant and unimportant. Now you are the undeniable reality that has ended their mistaken way of seeing and understanding. They didn't just find amusement in your struggles, they actively scorned and mocked you. They didn't just speak casually about your situation, they twisted the truth to suit their narrative. They thought they were demonstrating their intelligence and superiority, but all they accomplished was revealing their own smallness in the unfolding of the important path I set out for you from the very beginning. That past amusement they found in your difficulties has now become a profound lesson for their lives, one they cannot escape or avoid. You didn't simply get back on your feet after falling. You grew into the person they said you could never become. Their previous pattern of putting you down and minimizing your worth represents the end of their mistaken worldview. Your calm presence now stills their noisy criticism and empty talk. Simply by being authentically yourself, you quiet their meaningless chatter and shallow conversations. The transformation they didn't expect. The person you have become fundamentally shifts the entire picture, and their former amusement has transformed into deep unease and discomfort. They now find it increasingly difficult to grasp the depth and extent of your personal growth and development. You didn't just survive that quiet season of preparation, you rose above all the boundaries and limitations they imagined for you. You didn't change or transform to gain their approval or validation. You changed because remaining small and limited felt like a suffocating cage for your authentic inner self. Throughout this entire process, I watched over you carefully. I kept you secure and protected. I allowed them to have their temporary moment of laughter and satisfaction while I prepared you to step forward into your destiny. Now they don't joke or make light comments about you anymore. When they speak about you, it's with strain, with uncomfortable quiet, with unspoken words and quick, nervous glances. This is because the way you live now exposes what isn't real or authentic in their own lives. You have demonstrated plainly that genuine strength doesn't need to be loud or attention-seeking. It simply exists with quiet confidence, causing others to re-examine what they thought was true about strength, success, and significance. They didn't believe you would stand tall or recover from your difficulties. They were convinced you would fall apart completely and never recover. The depth of their miscalculation. That's exactly why their sorrow runs so deep and profound. That's why they shed tears when no one can witness their pain, because they cannot pretend you are not the remarkable person you are now. They cannot return to believing you didn't matter or weren't significant, because each step you take forward serves as a reminder that you were never meant to be laughed at or dismissed. They simply didn't understand the profound importance of what I intended for your life from the beginning. Do not diminish yourself to make them comfortable now, my precious child. Do not minimize the incredible journey you have walked or reduce the brightness I have placed inside your spirit. This current reality is exactly how things should be, not as a way to get revenge against them, but as the natural outcome of living out what I meant for your life. This represents the quiet calm that comes from walking in divine purpose, the kind that transforms their former jokes into serious reflection and their harsh words into genuine sadness and regret. Now you serve as the living example and standard. Despite how much they want to turn away and ignore the truth, you remain in their minds as a simple, clear testimony that exposes their past words as empty and meaningless. The gift they rejected. You were originally sent to show them a clearer, better path forward. Instead of receiving this gift, they perceived you as a threat to their comfortable status quo. You came not to frighten or intimidate them, but to offer genuine safety and security, However, they chose their own direction instead of accepting the protection I offered through your presence. You entered their lives carrying my light and truth, with a spirit that could have brought deep healing if they had properly welcomed and received it. You were not there to rule over them, direct their every move, or strive against them in any way. My precious child, you stepped into that environment with a different heart and a completely different way of understanding life and relationships. I intended for you to bring a fresh perspective, to help them see things more clearly and plainly, to discover a better road they could walk alongside you. But they weren't prepared for such plain sight and clear vision, were they? They weren't actively seeking peace or wanting to move past their current comfortable state. They simply wanted to remain settled in their familiar patterns. And being settled often automatically pushes back against anything that suggests change, even when that change would benefit them greatly. You represented the quiet response to needs they didn't even know how to identify or name. You were the gentle encouragement they missed because it didn't come with noise, drama, or demanding attention. You didn't raise your voice in anger or frustration. You didn't force your way through their resistance. You simply existed authentically in their midst, the mirror they couldn't handle. Yet simply being your authentic self revealed and exposed their own ways of acting and responding. Your quiet peace and inner stability unsettled their confusion and chaos. You didn't bring them pain or difficulty. You brought them what is real and true. Encountering what is real can be the most disturbing experience. When someone is holding tightly to a fabricated world they prefer over reality. They perceived you as a threat because they couldn't control or manipulate you. Your inner quiet didn't sway or bend with their emotional ups and downs. Your clear seeing penetrated right through their carefully constructed confusion and deception. But my beloved, you weren't there to point out their failings or judge their shortcomings. You were there to offer a way to freedom, serving as a living warning and invitation. Now the inevitable consequences of their choices cannot be denied or ignored. They find themselves troubled when no one is watching, clearly seeing that the difficulties you warned them about have now manifested in their lives. The hard times you sensed approaching, the pain you tried to help them avoid, the damaging patterns you urged them to abandon, all of these have come to pass. You didn't come to bring trouble or create problems in their lives. You came to help them avoid trouble and find solutions. Like people who refuse to listen to the sound of approaching danger, they chose their own path because their pride was too strong to accept guidance or warning. The burden of ignored wisdom. Now they carry the weight of consequences because they waited too long to heed the wisdom you offered. They are experiencing difficulty not because of external circumstances, but because of the heavy burden of their own regret for ignoring the one soul who clearly saw what lay ahead on their chosen path. You, my beloved one, spoke quietly with wisdom, moved with simple grace, and cared with genuine love. This is what disturbs them most profoundly now. Deep in their hearts, they know you were absolutely correct in your assessments and warnings. You weren't something to fear or resist. You were a pathway to genuine security and peace. You weren't the source of their problems. You were the helping hand extended to lift them up. But thinking too highly of themselves spoke louder than wisdom and good sense, and this continued until silence fell and reality became undeniable. The difficult times arrived, just as you predicted. The foundations became shaky, and the only sound remaining was the echo of the words you had spoken in love and concern. Now they cannot go back and undo what has happened. They cannot make the consequences disappear or return to their former state of denial. The struggles they currently face didn't occur because of your presence. They manifested after you were no longer there to provide stability and wisdom. Your completed assignment. Do not allow their sadness, sorrow, or regret to pull you back into that situation, my precious child. You completed exactly what I intended for you to accomplish in that place and with those people. You held up the light of truth. You tried consistently to lift them up and encourage them toward better choices. But not everyone is prepared or willing to receive support and guidance, no matter how lovingly it's offered. Some people will choose their own difficult road instead of accepting the helping hand extended to them. This choice often stems from their need for self-importance to remain in control, even when it means losing their peace and stability in the process. Allow them to experience their sadness and work through their regret. Let this quiet time reveal to them what is real and true. The difficulties they face were never caused by your presence in their lives. You were the one who provided the warning, and they will never forget that truth. They may have found temporary joy in your troubles and difficulties. Now they find your progress and success deeply disturbing and uncomfortable. They may have felt pleased when you encountered challenging times. Now their own peace is shattered when they witness your well-being and prosperity. The hidden satisfaction in your struggles. They didn't simply step back quietly from your life. Behind kind faces and in private spaces, they inwardly felt glad when you met significant challenges. They were quick to believe and accept the worst interpretations about your character and motivations, quick to spread stories that seemed credible but actually came from their own envy of what you possessed. They didn't stand with you or support you when you were experiencing your lowest moments. Those who fear confronting truth often find perverse pleasure when others stumble and fall. They privately hoped you would not succeed or recover. Your hardships became like entertainment for them, a source of twisted satisfaction. When you were at your most vulnerable point, that was precisely when they felt most superior and secure about themselves. The quiet revolution? But here is what they never saw coming, my cherished one. Your recovery and restoration was quiet, but it created profound and lasting change. You didn't attempt to retaliate against them or seek revenge for their treatment. You didn't broadcast your struggles loudly or demand public sympathy. You didn't ask for others to notice your efforts or acknowledge your progress. Instead, you found peace in still, quiet moments. You worked diligently without needing thanks or recognition. You walked forward with a steady, consistent heart and unwavering determination. When they observe you now, my precious child, your very existence and the trajectory of your life stirs deep unease within their spirits. Your presence has become a persistent, uncomfortable reminder of what is real and true. You didn't simply endure your trials and difficulties. You grew far beyond their expectations and limitations. Their unease isn't rooted in fear of you personally, my precious child, but in seeing their own reflection clearly in the light of your remarkable achievements and transformation. Each step you take forward confirms that their resistance and opposition held absolutely no power over the divine path I established for your life. Your increasing stature and influence demonstrates that my grace operates powerfully without requiring public display or human approval. The shield of stillness. Perhaps they overlooked and underestimated your stillness during difficult times. But that very stillness became your shield and protection. While their words were hollow and meaningless, you were transforming internally. While they found entertainment in your struggles, you were working diligently on your character and future. Now you have become someone they struggle to look upon directly because you reflect the person they refuse to become. In your most difficult moments, they silently wished you would remain defeated and never rise again. Now you demonstrate plainly that I witness everything that happens in secret and bring it all into perfect justice and balance. You didn't just rise above your circumstances, you grew stronger without tearing others down or seeking revenge. This is what disturbs them most deeply. You didn't retaliate against their treatment. You didn't attempt to pull them down to your level. Instead, you allowed my divine path to guide you as one who walks with clear intention, transforming hardship into resilience and strength. Now they remain trapped in their own sense of inadequacy and limitation, pretending not to notice your success. But my beloved one, you can feel it. The truth in the atmosphere doesn't lie or deceive. It's not your brightness that upsets them most. It's that your light appeared and flourished without their permission or approval. They are deeply troubled that the one they wished would disappear has now become too prominent and significant to disregard or ignore. The resentment they cannot escape. Let them remain in that place of resentment and bitterness. Let them stay exactly where they were when they quietly celebrated your struggles and difficulties. Because now, each time they encounter you or even hear your name, their discomfort isn't merely surface-level annoyance. Their deepest self remembers and recalls that they actively wished for your failure and downfall. Your life was never intended to be a story of their victory over your collapse and defeat. You were meant to be a profound lesson they would eventually wish they had heeded and learned from. They showed little regard for the very soul I sent to assist and bless them. You were never a threat to their well-being. You were the gift they didn't understand or appreciate. You came into their lives with hands wide open, not to take or receive for yourself, but to give freely and generously. Kindness, patience, honesty, and peaceful calm. You didn't seek anything for your own benefit or advantage. You brought stillness, understanding, and gentle healing woven into your words and actions. You didn't merely show concern for their welfare, you provided actual shelter and protection. You didn't just remain physically close, you stood firm in difficult places for people who didn't even recognize their own trouble or danger. The guidance they rejected. You represented the needed change in their lives, a guiding light, a gentle interruption in a destructive cycle they couldn't escape alone. Yet they acted as if you could be simply cast aside and forgotten. What they never understood, neither then nor now, my beloved, is that you were not sent to stand against them or oppose their interests. You were sent to offer them genuine freedom and release from their bondage. You represented their opportunity for security and peace, presented with gentleness and love, but they perceived you as something minor they could simply pass by and ignore. Now they experience sadness in private moments, but not because you are absent from their lives. Their sorrow stems from realizing that everything they chose over you is failing to provide what they truly need. The very relationships they preferred over yours are now distant, silent, and insincere. The bonds they favored are now draining their vitality and energy. The firmness, the sense of being settled, the calm they experienced when you were close. All of this has vanished because it flowed directly from your presence. It always did, though they failed to recognize its source and value until it departed with you. Their situation is like burning the only bridge over a raging, swollen river, then finding themselves stranded and overwhelmed by troubles, wondering why the difficulties continue to multiply and intensify. The bridge they burned. You were the bridge over their troubles, the solution to their problems, the shelter they never properly valued or appreciated. They chose their own path, believing they were demonstrating their independence and strength. Now they find themselves isolated and alone, surrounded by the very problems they were confident they could handle by themselves. Nothing feels safe or secure anymore. My precious child, do not allow sadness to touch your heart about this situation. You were not sent to beg for acceptance in a place you were meant to bless with your presence. You offered them a way out of their destructive, repeating patterns. You provided a voice that could have saved them many years of trouble and heartache, but they were not prepared to listen or receive your guidance. They perceived your true understanding and wisdom as a danger to their comfortable delusions. They thought your rising and success would make them appear smaller by comparison. When they witnessed your light, they blamed it for illuminating the shadows and darkness in their own hearts. Allow them to face the full consequences of what they called freedom and independence. Let them wrestle with the same inner troubles you tried to help them escape and overcome. The moment they showed disregard for what was precious and valuable, the natural flow of consequences continued, without requiring any further intervention from me. The mourning of lost potential. Now they shed tears not because they miss you personally, my cherished child, but because they understand they lost the one soul who came not to cause harm, but to bring wholeness and healing to everything they refused to face honestly. They are not crying over your physical departure from their lives. They mourn for the person they might have become while you were near, the potential they squandered. Let me speak with complete clarity, my beloved one. They were never truly afraid of losing you as a person. They were afraid of losing the version of themselves they were becoming when they were in your presence. Being near you revealed parts of themselves they weren't ready to see or acknowledge, their own untapped abilities, their own need for healing and growth, their own potential for transformation. You did more than simply show concern for their welfare. You gently challenged them to grow. You did more than just support them, you helped them ascend to higher levels. When they severed the relationship, they didn't just turn away from one person. They turned away from a greater possibility and potential within themselves. Now they weep, not from warmth or genuine desire for your companionship, my precious child, but from profound sorrow for the future they surrendered by choosing fear over growth and development. You functioned like a mirror, reflecting a truth they couldn't bear to see about themselves. The mirror of truth. You showed them who they actually were, and more challenging still, who I intended them to become. Instead of accepting the discomfort and moving forward into growth, they turned away from the truth, from you, and from everything placed in their path to guide them toward genuine peace and fulfillment. Now that mirror of truth is absent from their lives. They no longer see who they were in the past. Instead, they see what could have been, what they might have accomplished. As they observe your life and progress, they feel the distance, not just physical miles, but the deep inner and spiritual gap that now exists between you. This represents the space they created when they chose pride over personal development and transformation. My precious child, you were actively helping them find their way out of old habits they claimed to dislike, out of destructive patterns they felt trapped within. But they grew afraid, not of you personally, my cherished child, but of the positive change your presence was bringing to their lives. Their current sorrow isn't for your absence from their daily experience. It stems from recognizing they missed the opportunity, the opening, the breakthrough, the light that was readily available before them until they deliberately shut the door. The boundaries that blocked blessings. They believed they were establishing healthy boundaries and protecting themselves. In reality, they were blocking blessings and divine opportunities. They thought walking away demonstrated strength and independence, but now they sit in silence, troubled by the part of themselves that only seemed to exist when you were near. Hear this truth clearly, my beloved child. Your worth and value were never dependent on anything you gave them externally or materially. Your significance was rooted in the spark you helped awaken within their spirits. You were a calm presence, wrapped in genuine care and concern. You represented a sense of purpose found in peace rather than striving. You served as a reflection designed not to please them, but to show them what was real and authentic. What causes them pain now is understanding they ended the very connection that could have shown them a path they were too afraid to follow. Let them sit with that knowing and awareness. Let them weep not for your absence, but for the person they will never become without your positive influence and guidance. You represented a crucial turning point in their lives and development. Now they find themselves walking in circles, making no real progress, while you, my beloved, continue moving forward with quiet ease and confidence they cannot even comprehend or imitate. The lost opportunity for transformation. They didn't just lose you as a person. They lost the opportunity for a better version of themselves they were beginning to discover and develop. My precious child, the path you now walk is not about seeking their notice or approval, or proving anything further to them. It represents simply the natural unfolding of who you were always meant to be, free from the limitations others attempted to place upon your life. Their sorrow is not a measure of your value or worth, my cherished one, but a clear indication of their own inability to embrace the opportunity for change when it stood directly before them. Do not allow their regret to become a chain that pulls you back into their space of difficulty and dysfunction. Your freedom from their influence is now complete and total. You are not held captive by their opinions or confined by their past actions and judgments. The quiet strength you possess was forged in moments they never witnessed, built up during the stillness when they believed you were weakened and defeated. Now live fully in the light of this new reality. Walk with clear, confident steps, knowing that every good thing arriving in your life represents simply alignment with divine purpose, not a reward for enduring hardship, but the natural outcome of staying true to the inner knowing I placed within your spirit, the foundation of peace. Let the peace that settled within you during those quiet times of preparation be the foundation for every step you take ahead. You don't need to seek understanding or validation from those who turned away from your light. Their perspective was limited by their own inner state of confusion and fear. You were never meant to fit into their small, restrictive view of what was possible for your life. Focus now on the horizon stretching before you, my precious child. The road ahead is clearer, the air is lighter, and the opportunities are perfectly aligned with your true being and authentic self. Every experience, every connection, every quiet moment of knowing is part of the unfolding purpose I have established for your life. This is a path built on authenticity, resilience, and the quiet power that emerges when a soul stops striving for external approval and simply exists in truth. This is the essence of the strength they now observe, but cannot touch or replicate. It is not strength that comes from fighting battles or overcoming others through force, but power that flows from deep within, from a steadfast connection to the truth of who you are. Their sadness represents a natural consequence of their own choices, my beloved one. It is the inevitable result of turning away from something genuine and life-giving. It is not your burden to carry, or your problem to solve or fix. Your divine responsibility. Your responsibility was to walk in the light I gave you, to trust the quiet guidance of my voice, and to allow the hidden work within you to come forth when the timing was perfectly right. That appointed time is now. Your presence serves as a quiet declaration of truth, a living example that resonates far beyond words or actions. So let them sit with their discomfort and unease. Let them grapple with understanding that arrived too late to benefit them. Your journey continues, guided not by their reactions or responses, but by the steady hand that has always directed your steps with love and wisdom. Embrace the peace you have discovered, my precious child. Cherish the quiet confidence that has grown and developed within you. The future holds moments of deep joy and fulfillment, experiences that are perfectly aligned with the true essence of your being. You are not defined by the past or limited by the perceptions of others. You are completely free to walk the path I have laid out before you, knowing that every step is purposeful and every moment is held securely in my care. Your time to shine. This is your time, my beloved child, to simply be the person I created you to be, without apology or explanation. My precious child, you have journeyed with me through these words, your spirit perfectly attuned to the truth I have spoken. Your heart's response, that deep inner knowing and recognition, serves as a sign of your divine path and calling. You are not walking this road alone, my beloved one. You are part of a chosen remnant, those who are called to hear clearly in this crucial season of human history. This moment holds specific significance, representing divine timing for action and deeper revelation of my purposes. I give you this assignment now, my precious child. Let this message take deep root in your heart and transform your understanding completely. Let your engagement with this sacred work be a declaration of your alignment with my purposes. Support this word so that it may reach others who yearn for the light and truth it contains. Return when I call again, for there are further depths to explore and greater peace to discover within my presence. Go forth, my beloved child, enveloped completely in my light and protection, carrying this truth as a beacon for others who need to hear these words of hope and vindication. Chat Controls Sonnet 4.